Motown was a big deal for techno. It was a big deal for rap.
Mm.
It was a big deal for soul. It was a big deal for a lot of stuff. So don't sleep on Motown.
You get asked the typical question or the cliche question. The question that was on my list of questions not to ask you, which was like, where did techno come from?
Yeah.
And then the other one is, what is techno? So I made the mistake when James Ruscombe was on the show. I made the mistake of asking him as the first question, what's your definition of techno? And like 5 people in the comments are like, that's the worst question you could possibly ask. But actually, in that WDT interview, you gave a really, really interesting answer where you talk about Motown and Juan Atkins explicitly rejecting Motown in his early interviews. But then, you're coming from a perspective where you really kind of emphasize the importance of it. And then you talk about Frankfurt and Berlin as well, which is something which we're going to get to as well. But like, talk to me about Motown and its importance, in your opinion, on the stuff that we do.
Yeah, Motown is um Motown's extremely important because partially because of the defiance of some of the artists like Marvin Gaye, but also because of the darker times of Vietnam war that was happening, and um, uh, with Papa Was a Rolling Stone, that to me, the mood of it is a techno record, you know. And a lot of the stuff that Norman Whitfield had produced, even later on when he was doing stuff as Rolls Royce and the other productions they did, it just had that dark edge to it. It could have been done with synthesizers, no problem. Later on, Stevie Wonder did stuff with synthesizers. They put out Mandre, that's all synthesizer stuff. Um, and Motown might have, from what I read, they might have been one of the first record labels to ever have a modular synth
Right,
in
in
the
the studio.
studio,
Yeah.
like in '67,
Right.
maybe something like that. Song like Love Child, from the Supremes. I mean, it's got like this what was psychedelic sounds at the time, but yeah, it's like the shit that we try to do the first thing we get our hands on a synth is, put it through an echo and make all these crazy sounds and things. So Motown, the mood of the music is what we have more to thank Motown for. Not the, let's dance and all this stuff. It's like even the spoken word records that Motown put out. They put out an album that was just a guy talking to Vietnam soldiers in Vietnam
Yeah.
about them being in Vietnam, how fucked up it was and all this. There was their label called Black Forum, where they put out a lot of speeches and things. The civil rights movement had a huge impact on uh, on how the music developed
Mm.
and how black people were able to monopolize with the developments. Motown starting out putting records with white faces, and then later on merging it to the actual faces of the artists
Yep.
that were on there. That those are big leaps that had to be taken, and they took them, and it made it easier for other Detroiters like Funkadelic,
Sure.
George Clinton. They put out Rare Earth, which I mean, one of the biggest hip hop breaks is from Rare Earth. I just want to celebrate. That's like Motown was a big deal for techno. It was a big deal for rap.
Mm.
It's a big deal for soul. It's a big deal for a lot of stuff. Don't sleep on Motown. From like 1967 until the barge, into the 80s, they did great disco records,
Sure.
great rock records, great soul records, amazing soul records.
So when one was rejecting it,
Yeah.
was he basically just saying, sort of planting a flag in the sand and saying, no, this is our thing now? Was that what he was getting at, or what was it?
I think his rejection might have been the Holland Dozier Holland, type of dancing in the streets,
Okay.
and the
Okay.
good time
Sure.
Motown stuff that is just like, oh yeah, it's just about smiling and dancing.
Right, which I guess in the early 80s was totally anachronistic, right? Given what was going on in the city. Is that kind of it?
Yeah,
Or-
Detroit went through a lot of hard times and stuff. And then we let David Bowie and Mick Jagger do a version of Dancing in the Streets, and they could do it. They could do that.
It never even occurred to me that. Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no. But with electronic music, with the his big influence was Future Shock, the book Future Shock.
Ah, right.
Yeah, the author is
Oh yeah,
out of my head
yeah,
right
okay.
now.
Yeah.
But that was like part of the template for Metroplex. The label itself is mentioned in the book. The name of the label. But for the futuristic qualities of what he envisioned, Motown wasn't making future music.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was making future music. Motown wasn't. But Motown made so many great classics that influenced a lot of future music.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, like you say, could create the conditions in many ways for it to happen. Let's talk about excuse me.
Take your time. It's cool.
The Frankfurt versus Berlin thing,
Yeah.
in the context of the techno museum in Frankfurt, which as also you talk about in that interview in WDET. One of the most memorable things that's happened on this podcast is Chris Liebing telling me that techno was invented in Frankfurt. So, I mean, I think I had to get my head around that a little bit. And I think there are nuances to it, as you have said before. But the context of it is this competition between Frankfurt and Berlin,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad as it seems on on face value, is it? Do you think? I don't know. Well, I mean,
At
Tell
one
me.
point, it was tense
okay,
because Berlin had Love Parade, so Frankfurt had to have something. And to this day, I don't know if Sven and Westbound. I don't. You never see them doing anything
Okay.
together.
okay,
So it doesn't exist, a friendship in that sense. But it was a really tough competition between the two of them as DJs.
Yeah.
And Berlin and Frankfurt. But yeah, Love Parade like blew everything out. I remember Mark Ernestus from Basic Channel saying, "Yeah, I got off the plane and the pilot said have a great Love Parade." So that's the impact. That's how strong Love Parade
yeah,
was. So when it comes to techno, if they're competing that hard about a street parade, then they're competing that hard about techno. But
I mean, if I can interrupt you,
yeah,
the Berlin scene and Detroit
yeah,
has from a very early point was very intertwined, right? So
yes, definitely.
Trezor got really into bringing over Jeff and bringing over various other people. When was the first time you played Berlin? Do you reckon? Or was it obviously
I don't remember, but the connection is because of Mark Ernestus and Maurice
Yeah.
van Oswald.
yeah.
That's the
And
connection.
also, I think there's a couple other guys who were running Trezor at the time who were super into it. But yeah, absolutely, Mark, totally key.
Because Mark came to Detroit.
Yeah.
He bought a building in Detroit.
Oh, I've read this story. Yeah.
Yes.
Crazy.
He
Crazy.
bought a building in Detroit. That's how much he was invested in it. So
But I don't think anyone in Berlin would ever say we invented techno. You know, like I don't just think that would occur to anyone in the Berlin scene. And the Frankfurt scene is, like you said, bit different like that, right?
yeah, yeah. Because for us, if we're gonna have that argument, it all starts with craft work. So that's just people in Detroit, us that do the music and stuff. It's like neither one created it.
Sure.
We got all of our influences, German influences from Kraftwerk, and then some of us got it from Can and from Stockhausen or something, And so hearing these interesting things, Connie Plank. So Connie Plank, I think he produced Liaisons Dangerous as well, which was on the underground was an important part of the influence and stuff. So there wasn't anything in Frankfurt that we knew about that we would call even anything that was techno. Same thing with Berlin
Sure.
until Basic Channel. So the argument for us is just lame, but that's just what it is. They can because they have part of the argument with Frankfurt is that somebody who owned a store called it techno or something.
Right.
He had
Okay.
a section that was called techno or something, and that's how they think it was created. But I think he took records that he saw as futuristic records and put them in there, and it's just like, yeah, it's techno, blah blah. But it wasn't just
Yeah.
Frankfurt music.
Okay.
So yeah, so the part that we have a problem with in Detroit is that UNESCO came in and backed the Berlin thing,
Ah. Okay.
and we don't have any sort of organizations like that in the US
Sure.
that'll do the same thing.
I mean, the Germans are very good at that kind of thing, aren't they? I mean, that's actually a European thing. I mean, the European Union itself and the various different kind of organizations around it, supranational organizations. I mean, they just go in and say, this is that thing. And, we're putting it and putting a plaque up on the wall. And that's what this is.
But that's great. I love that. I love it that you guys have, the blue plaques around
Sure.
London. I love it that streets are named after people. I love it that there's this history, there's this support. I mean, even what was it? Karl Marx he even has a plaque somewhere around here. He's not even
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
English.
yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So I
Totally.
mean, that's great.
Yeah.
There's a Ella Fitzgerald Street or Ella Fitzgerald Plaza in Paris.
Right.
You know, so I mean, I love that. But in the U.S., to get any of that stuff, it's like you got to die, really die, in order to get something. So, like, there's a
Yeah.
Marcus Belgrave street,
Uh-huh.
but it took him dying before he got it.
Yeah.
Am Fiddler took him dying before he got it. So it's like with UNESCO doing what they did while the the Berlin architects of electronic music are alive is big,
Sure.
And I wish that was the case in Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't a Frankie Knuckles Street in Chicago before he died. I don't think. I think it was after he died.
Oh, there is now. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, it's been there for 10 years.
Oh,
Louis.
right.
Like I think it was a year after he died or something that there was a Frankie Knuckles
That's cool.
Street. Yeah. Yeah, but there should be a Marshall Jefferson Street. There should be a Mike Hitman Street, Steve Sil Curley Street. You know what I'm saying? There should be a DJ Pierre Street.
Yep.
Ron Hardy Street. There should be these things.